He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Ti hewa mauri ora ki te whaiau, ki te ao marama, ki au we ti hei mauri ora ko Māpuna tēnei mihi atuana. This is Māpuna, the podcast, and this week our guest is Lady Tureiti Moxon, he uri no Ngāti Pāhauwera, Ngāti Kahungunu, me Ngaitahu, born in Mohaka, alongside the Mohaka River, and a very proud Ngāti Pāhauwera descendant who has gone on to become a leader in health, recognised for her work in health and wellbeing of New Zealanders with the recent conferment of an honorary doctorate from her alma mater, the University of Waikato Te Whare Wānanga, or Waikato. A mother, a grandmother, also chair of the National Māori Urban Authority, and someone who was deeply involved in the process of her iwi settlement for Ngāti Pāhauwera. She has a lot of things on her mind, particularly relating to the state of Te Treaty of Waitangi, race relations in Aotearoa today, and also the delivery of health and achieving Māori health outcomes. Ara anō atu ngā kōrero a tēnei o tātou whaia. It is Dr. Lady Tureiti Moxon on Māpuna this week. Nō reira e te iwi whakarongo mai ki tēnei kōrero ka whakapuakina. E Lady Tureiti Moxon, ko tō mātou kai kōrero ki rungi a Māpuna i tēnei wiki, e te iwi whakarongo mai. E te whaia tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe.
No mai. Very good to have you. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for your time so quickly after receiving a very lofty recognition. What's that like, by the way, hearing people like Suranan, who's a lovely man. He was the patron of our marae at Te Māhurihuri for a long time. But hearing someone like that saying such lovely things, what's that like?
Well, actually, it's very. It was a great honour, really, to hear that coming from the University of Waikato, and it was really surreal, to be honest.
Why? Why do you say
very surreal? Oh, you just do what you need to do. There are things that are not right in our country, and unless you stand up and say something about it, it's going to be a normal thing, that it's okay to do what's often been done to us. And that's been one of my biggest issues around this government in particular, but also about the way in which the Te Treaty is being treated in our country right now. So it was...
You've artfully curbed the conversation away from the recognition towards your which is what we do, and I completely understand that. By the way, I do want to get into this because I think there are lots of things that you talk about that when people hear them, yes, they get a greater understanding of what makes you tick and what you're about. And I do want to get into those issues. But if you don't mind, I want to drag you back to the recognition that you received, because, as was mentioned, you studied at Waikato University, and here you are receiving an honorary doctorate. So I know it'll be humbling and all those kinds of things. But, does it feel like people are saying to you, we thank you for your service, or does it feel like, right, we're putting you out to pasture now? Or how does it feel in the moment of that?
Well, it feels, like I said, really surreal. But having said that, it was a real honour to be honoured, to be talked about in that way, to be thought of about in that way, and to see how other people see me, and as much as I might get feedback about this, that, and the other thing, that citation that they wrote was pretty amazing, and even for me, I thought it was very long, maybe too long. But anyway, I just think, I felt that they captured, my essence, really.
Not bad for a girl from Mohaka.
Not bad for a girl from Mohaka. Who used to get up early in the morning and go bring in the cows, to milk the cows.
My understanding is you're the eldest of 12. Big whānau.
Big whānau. So we all had to pitch in. We all had to support each other. We had to support Mum and Dad. Dad worked away Whakatū Freezing Works, and Mum looked after the farm. Basically, she was the one who did most of the work.
Wow.
Well, having
Whakatū's
babies.
right in town.
That's right, it's in
Hastings.
Hastings.
Yeah.
Yes. And so he used to go home, and that was how we really sustained ourselves in rural New Zealand, really. You had to find a job outside, and basically their farm supplemented any income that came in from a job, really.
So was he away 5 days a week
5
and
days.
then back home
Yes,
and then
yes.
off again?
He'd go off on a Monday morning, early hours, to go to work, and then he'd be back on Friday afternoon.
Catching
or
the
evening.
train or?
No, he'd drive.
Wow.
Drive down and drive back.
Wow.
Yes.
So because you were the eldest, were you essentially a second mum to lots
Oh,
of
yes.
you?
We all had to pitch in. Everybody had a job. No one was ever allowed to laze around, if you like.
Yeah.
We all had to do our part. And being the eldest, I was the one who really did support Mum in the main. My grandfather lived with us for a little while too, but until he passed away. And so it was pretty tough in those days, for my parents. But we grew our own kai. We fished in the sea. We eeled. We did all of those things. Watercress from here to Kingdom Come, and puha in the surrounded everywhere. And then mushrooms. We had all this natural kai around us. Where now, of course, we just go to the supermarket and that's the end of that.
Yeah. You said fish in the sea. Where's the closest sea to Mohaka?
Mohaka is on the coast. It's
it?
where
By the river.
Mohaka is where the river meets the sea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've got
and we
you.
have paikea as well.
Yep.
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
So we have an island that moves, and it's called Paikea. So when the mouth of the river moves, it moves as well. And so the mouth, depending on where the mouth is, will depend on how far it is to walk towards it. Wow. And we have reti boards,
Yes, yes.
and we're quite famous for that. And the other thing we're famous for are our hangi stones.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, mohaka, harara, taupunga, opunga. We have names for all our hangi stones.
Wow. And the name Tureiti, where did that come from?
It came from my grandmother. My grandmother was the last born in her whānau. So when my father was very close to his mother, and so when she passed away, and soon thereafter I was born, and
her name was Tureiti.
Her name was Tureiti.
And where did she get that name from?
Well, I don't know. I assumed that it was because she was late.
Yeah, well, yes.
But I have no idea because they always called her Tureiti.
Wow. Because, in the Te Heu line, there's a Tureiti Hoani Hepi Tumu, that's one of the tupuna, and I believe that's from the horo. And lots of them are about events where someone turns up too late or something like that, and that's how they get the name. You end up going to Hukarere.
Yes, I did.
Was that always going to be the case? Because didn't you have to it was expensive to go to Māori boarding schools in those days.
Yes, it was, and I managed to get a scholarship. And, well, actually, I got 2 scholarships, a government scholarship and a Māori scholarship.
Māori Education
Trust scholarship, yes, I did. And that enabled me to go. So there were, out of all our family, there were 3 of us that went to Hukarere.
Wow.
Yeah, from the girls. It was a pity that we couldn't put all the girls through, but unfortunately we just weren't in that place and space to be able to do that.
Had you shown a lot of promise in education, did the elders in your family make a pretty determined decision based on schooling and stuff like that you would go because they knew you would do well?
Well, I think part of that was that because I was the eldest and I have to help around it quite a lot and do quite a lot of mahi at home, they thought that I had the potential to, and that I should be supported to go to boarding school and be supported to get a better education than we did at Mohaka Native Primary School at the time. And so it just went from there, really.
What did you want to do? What were you thinking about doing when you were at Hukarere?
Well, I thought I'd be a social worker, believe it or not. And my teacher at the then Napier Girls High School said, "Oh, well, it was our vocational guidance teacher." She said, No, I don't think your marks are very good.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you keep my ear. No, I don't think your marks are very good for you to be able to achieve that, she says. And she said, oh, well, what else would you like to do? I said, no, I think I want to do that. And so, that experience really just told me that never let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do.
Exactly.
Because, and that's really been my philosophy and the way in which I've operated all my life. And, and then I decided that from there on in, your life is your own. And, you determine what is and what isn't. And,
Where did that come from?
Oh, the determination to know?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was in my blood, really. Ngāti Pahawera are pretty feisty women. We're pretty feisty. And some may even say bolshy, but Pahawera's been known as sort of like the more kind of like stand up for yourself iwi. We're not ngāwari. We're the opposite of that. So,
when you left Hokariri, was the idea to be a lawyer? Where did that come from?
No, it was never my idea to be a lawyer. I thought I might have been a teacher one stage.
Yeah. What was the plan after leaving Hokariri? What happened?
Oh, I went overseas.
You went to India?
Yeah, I went to India.
Why did you go to India?
Well, there was a group called Song of Asia, and it was through a group called Moral Rearmament. And my cousin, Wētito Huata,
Yes.
Canon Wētito Huata, asked 4 of us if we would like to go, and we were all from Waikato College.
Your cousin?
Well, he's my father's first cousin.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So he asked us to think about that, because I while I was at Hokariri, and I left Hokariri and went to Waikato College for 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when he gathered us all up and talked to our parents and talked to us about going to join this group of 80 from 14 different countries.
Wow.
It was pretty well, and I've got to say it was probably the biggest experience of my life, because it really did tune me into what possibilities look like.
Wow. When you say possibilities, why do you say that?
Well, because when I first went to India, and you can see the stark difference in the economics of the people there. And then from there, I went to Switzerland. Our troop moved to Switzerland.
Bit of a difference there.
It was huge. It was massive. It was a huge difference. And so here you have this clean, pristine country. We've just come back from people sleeping in the toilets, waiting for the planes to come in to hand you a towel and to hand you a piece of soap or and that kind of thing, and overcrowding from here to Kingdom Come in India. And then we go to this other place, which is the total opposite. And it was just stark, absolutely stark. But the thing that I got from all of that, and then I think my biggest experience was when we went to the Sarsi Reservation in Canada. And I was very blessed to have been able to live on the reservation way back then. And that opened my eyes really to the plight of the people in Canada, the North American Indians in Canada, and the mere fact that those reservations were built really around them so that they could contain them.
Yes. And
basically let them die off. And then they started to discover they had oil. And so it's just changed the whole dynamics.
Well, you look at people now like Manny Jules and those people who, as you say, they had a pipeline going through, and now, because of the federal recognition that they have from the treaties that they've signed with the Canadian Parliament now, that they're now essentially running their own thriving economies within those communities. And at one stage, I think they used to see Māori as being a bit of a leader in terms of Indigenous rights and interests. And now it's very much going the other way, because they've been so advanced in terms of developing their own tribal economies. People talk about tribal economies now in Māoridom, and we're trying to catch up now. It's interesting, eh?
Yeah, well, what is really sad about our country is that we have been the innovators and the movers and shakers of a lot of transformational change. And we've been put back 50 years now. maybe even 100 years. But we keep getting push back, go forward, push back. But, even in Wales, the Welsh came here to Aotearoa to observe our kohanga reo and how we were doing it. Right back then, and now they're a thriving reo-speaking country, and that everywhere you go in that country, there's
dual signage.
Dual signage everywhere. It's all of that kind of thing. And here we are, just trying to get a name across the across the line is hard yakka. So my thing is, we just got to keep going because, people come and people go. It's a fact. But, we are going to be here forever.
Mm. And I certainly want to pick up on that point. We're talking to Lady Tureiti Moxon, Doctor, we'll figure out the order. There'll be a dame in there soon somewhere, don't worry. She's with us now. Why Waikato University? How did you end up there?
Well, we lived in Tauranga, Moana, and then my husband got a job. David got a job.
This is Sir David.
Sir David.
Archbishop.
Yes, Archbishop.
Whatever the order is.
Sir David Moxon. Yes, and it goes on. He got a job in Hamilton, and so we moved to Hamilton from Tauranga, and that's really how we ended up there, and that's how I ended up at Waikato University.
How old were you when you went to Waikato?
I was in my 30s, I think.
Hard?
It was hard because I had bought tamariki and I had a baby. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it was hard. And law is not easy, and it's a very difficult subject, and particularly if you can't get your head around how law is made and how the acts. The interpretation of the acts and all of that, so it's not an easy subject. But what I did love, though, was the whole fact that I was able to really understand from an inside, a legal perspective around treaty claims and the treaty jurisprudence, and that to me was it probably was the thing that I felt most strongly about, and it was the thing that I enjoyed most.
And you did Māori studies as well at Waikato University.
Well, yes, David and I did Māori studies together. And it was just lovely because then we had Parihuia Milroy, we had Hirini Melvin, and we had John Moorfield and Terita Papesh, and we had, we had some real, stunning experts.
It was the place to go if you wanted to do the reo. And some of us went to Vic and we had Poe and Te Ripoa and
Timothy was there too. Then much younger, of course. We were all very young then. Yes.
Yeah, and really following on from kind of, that was Te Rangiho who really wanted Te Wharehui and others to be there, and that's why there were so many tūhoe at Waikato. But anyway, but it must have been an exciting time as well. I know you said it was hard. But that was, if you were Māori and you wanted to do tikanga reo, you went to Waikato. That was always the kind of feeling at the time,
Yes, well, it was easy for me to go to, to attend Waikato because I lived there. But it did open up a whole new world. And having had some experience, it was easy for me to be able to add my experience and into my essays, into my assignments, and that kind of thing, because I lived it and I walked it and I was doing it. So I think that always makes, coming with some experience makes the journey easier.
I want to fast forward a little bit because I do want to get to the current state of affairs in Aotearoa, and I'm keen to glean from you some of your insights and how you think we should pivot. There's activations that will be happening and are planned to be happening actually next month, and I want to talk about that. But I do want to talk about te kōhao health because that must have been an interesting time, but B, quite a bold thing to do in 2000. And two, because, why am I saying this? Because equity wasn't something that people talked about a lot, unless you were in those circles. But given, and don't forget we had a closing the gaps policy that suddenly went out the window with the Labour government and the Prime Minister at the time of Helen Clark. So it must have been a really bold decision to want to, have this thing develop and evolve at the time.
Well, I was actually on the board of Te Koha while I was undertaking my degree. And really circumstances changed that for me because I had 4 children. And someone had to stay home and look after them. And it was me. But having said that, it actually enabled me to be able to do the things that I wanted to do, which was really to be a part of something bigger than myself. Because sometimes I think, when our women are at home and they're dealing with tamariki and all the challenges that can bring, and it can be a lonely place, and we do need to have an outlet that we can a rock, if you like, to hold on to. And I certainly found that was the case with Te Koha. But the thing of Te Koha way back then was it was really, really small. And it was, it was fledgling, really. But the vision around it, by the then kaumātua of the time, the vision around it was huge, was massive. And, they had this map on their wall of all their dreams of what they wanted to see, how they wanted to see the marae develop and grow. And it was encapsulating. And I absolutely, I saw it, and I saw it way back then that, we can build. And I remember Wee Kuki Kingi, the late Wee Kuki Kingi, saying to me once, we need to go and buy 10 acres of land. And I said, where? Because we had no money. Where are we going to get 10 acres of land from? And the man used to frighten me to death half the time. But he said, it doesn't matter where, anywhere. We should get 10 acres of land. And you know what? To this day, we are still working our way towards 10 acres of land. It's just crazy.
Who were some of those other kaumātua involved at the time? Because Tareki Nui was still alive at that time too.
Well, Tareki Nui was the patron of Kirikiriro Marae. And, she was very influential and very much a part of what we were doing there. And, of course, from her and the mayor, the late Mayor Ross Jansen, they together are the ones who felt the need to support urban Māori in Hamilton and Kirikiriroa. And so they developed this whole thing around having a runanga or a trust or something for urban people. And so from there, Te Runanga o Kirikiriroa is born. And it was all born from the marae. So that marae has been, in essence, the roots, if you like, of all of us. And even though we remain on the marae today, and so does the runanga. So, our roots are pretty strong in terms of, because it is an urban marae, and in terms of a mātāwaka. So, yes. And there was Fraser Tāwhai, and there were a whole lot of people that have all passed on now, who all gave, put their aroha and their vision into Kirikiriro marae to make it it's really the seed where many seeds have been planted and many seeds have grown.
And it is a big operation at Te Whai. Do you pinch yourself sometimes going, gee, it's only 22 years on, and look at how big this has become? Or is this just the actualisation of what those kaumātua were talking about at the time?
Well, it is part of the actualisation of them, but it's also about opportunities too, when the opportunity knocks, because it's an unfortunate thing as where we are in terms of this, where we are right now politically. Because when National were in last time, or have been in, they have been the movers and shakers of kohanga reo. You know, that's where it all grew from kura kaupapa, whare wānanga.
Supportive whānau order as well.
Whānau order. You know, all of these great initiatives. And now we see the fact that, you know, we're actually trying. Well, it appears that we are being assimilated back in, and to me that's the worst kind of thing you can do to someone's dreams who have gone on well long before us. You know, what we should be doing is building on those dreams to create the real intent of Te Treaty of Waitangi, which is really the true partnership of two peoples, instead of having one group of people have dominion and domain over us.
There'll be we get a lot of Pākehā listening to this program. There'll be an audience sitting here going, Whai Tureiti, I don't get this. Why can't we just have one system? Why can't we just have one process or platform or pathway of health? Why do people keep talking to me about equity? There should just be equality, and we should all have one thing, and it should work. And why, when you're talking about disability, why does that matter?
Well, why it matters is because, you know, we talk about fairness, we talk about equity, we will talk about all getting the same, having the same opportunities. Well, it's not true. It's absolutely not true in our country. And as much as people say that we have opportunities to education, actually we're failing. And the question that people have to ask themselves is why. Now, we die early, we die young. There is still a 7-year difference between Māori mortality rates and other people's mortality rates. We die twice as much from cardiovascular disease. We die twice as much from all the cancers. You name every single cancer. And what we know is if you get in early enough, if you're diagnosed early enough, then the chances of saving lives is greater. But unfortunately, what happens quite often is that somebody makes a decision and delays. And so what happens is we get everything, you get diagnosed and everything when it becomes such a big issue, and then they have to either operate or you die. And that's as simple as that. And what's been happening in our country has been going on for far too long. And it's got to change. And if we don't change it, it will mean that Māori will always be left out.
If was Te Aka Whaiora the opportunity that would have started to correct that course or fix that problem? Because again, there'll be people saying, well, it was a separate system. National comes in and says, oh, it wasn't achieving what it was set out to do, closes it down. Talk to me about why Te Aka Whaiora could have been the way in which we could have changed some of those things that you're talking about now.
Well, the beauty about Te Aka Whaiora was that they understood who we were. They understood what Māori providers could do. And I tell you, COVID showed the whole country how we could immobilise and how we could get in there and make things happen. You know, Te Kōhau Health vaccinated almost half of Hamilton, you know, half of Kirikiriroa. And I tell you, the people who came, and they're still telling me now, yes, I came, they loved the fact that when they came, they were told where to go, they were ushered, they knew what they were needed to do, because a lot of them were afraid that they might break tikanga on the marae, but they felt cared for. They felt like, for the first time, you know, they were the most important person in the health system. And, you know, that's how we should feel all the time, right? And, so Te Aka Whaiora was really, I thought it was going to be the pinnacle of the start of others to come, because certainly that should happen in terms of Oranga Tamariki as well. But And it wasn't just about that. It was about us being able to inform them of what needs there were in our communities. And that, unfortunately, what happens is we get spoken to from Central that says, oh, we've got this beautiful American model and we want to implant it everywhere. and it's got nothing, it doesn't resonate with any of our people, it doesn't resonate with our communities that we're living in and that we work within. It doesn't resonate with any of that. And so what's the point is what I say. Unless it appeals to our people, they're not going to use it. And then, of course, it becomes like widget counting, bean counting. So you count how many FTEs you have, you count how many of this you did, how many of that. But you don't actually know that you're actually making a difference in terms of that person's health or in that group of your population. You don't know. Because you're too busy counting this and counting that, and that's like how many people have you seen today who you spoke to about smoking, and then you count that tick. I spoke to this person about tick, and what does it change anything? Yeah,
I think you've put it in a way I've never heard of before, which is now it's a talk. You're being talked to. Before it was a talk with, or even you talk, they listen. And it must make it incredibly hard now to do the work because we know the stresses and strains on the health system. We know that look at this issue the other day at Waikato Hospital. I'd love to get your thoughts on that too, by the way, because it just seems that... You mentioned earlier about we're going 50 years back rather than 50 years forward. Why are we hearing about these issues about people being told to speak English at Waikato Hospital when we've got so many things that we need to fix in the health system? I don't understand it fine.
Te reo is one of the official languages of this country, and so is sign language. Now, we see sign language on television when our ministers get up and talk and all the rest of it and whatnot, but I can't believe it because, again, what is being achieved here by that? What is being achieved? Are they not supposed to talk to a patient who is of a different descent, a different ethnicity in their language so that they feel comfortable and they feel as if they belong?
So let's be clear. This isn't you saying we should be speaking Māori. This is you saying, well, actually, if we establish a connection and communication with someone in their language, a patient... potentially get better health outcomes specifically for that patient. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly right. And so it's just, to me, it's ludicrous that we should be saying, no, you can't. If they're saying, well, nurses shouldn't be talking to nurses in their own language, well, that might be a different kettle of fish. The reason for that is because some people may not think that that's appropriate. But, but if there's a patient who is Filipino, of Filipino descent, Indian descent, Chinese descent, and you have a Chinese nurse on, I've got Chinese nurses in Te Koau. Yeah. I've got Indian nurses. Why? Because we got a lot of Chinese people that come to Te Koau, and it'll be great to have someone who can kōrero to them, to make sure that they're getting the right kind of support and help that they need, and also to help inform our clinicians. That's the key to all of this. And we've also got Filipino nurses. So if a Filipino comes in and they talk in their reo, ka pai, I embrace it. I absolutely embrace it.
We're talking to Lady Tureiti Moxon, you listen to Māpuna on RNZ National. My understanding is one of your children is a doctor.
Yes.
Who's the lead in the conversation when health issues are discussed around the table?
Oh, his mother.
Must be a hard case combo. Well, governance and management, eh? Governance and management.
That's right.
Yeah. We're at an interesting time. We've spoken specifically about health, but you've made very clear that there are issues. You've got your own issues with the leadership in the country, not just the government, but leadership in the country. There are activations happening now, being planned. We've got a hikoi starting on November the 11th. Where do you think we're going as a country when we have activations being developed because of the way people feel the marginalisation, the isolation that they're feeling, that they have to take to the streets. We see this internationally, and now it's very much the case here in Aotearoa. How would you describe the current state of the nation, not just in terms of race relation, but the state of the nation where this is something that is happening now en masse in the country?
Well, the Treaty of Waitangi is the founding document of this country. It's a compact between the Crown and Māori. Now, over the years, it's been blurred, and, well, really to suit themselves. And no matter what the Waitangi Tribunal say in terms of them breaching every which way but loose, in every single aspect of our lives, whether it's contemporary or whether it's historical. And that impact on us is huge. It's massive. And the worst of it is no one takes responsibility for the damage that they cause, the state has caused to our people. Now, you have a look at all the survivors under the inquiry of the abuse of state care. Yes, of state care. And, have a look at that. And we've got an apology coming up. But, apology is fine. But they have to whakatika that. And have they come out with anything that they're going to whakatika that with? No, they haven't. And you see, they cause huge damage on our young people in their care, in the name of the fact that they know better, in the name of the fact that they've always addressed these things as us as the problem and them as our saviours. But they're not our saviours. What they are doing is damaging us further. The trauma that a lot of our people in prison face and who are coming out of prison face, the rampant usage of drugs, even in our corrections facilities. It's just one issue after an issue which compounds, but nobody takes responsibility for. And our damaged children, there were survivors who said things like, when I was 18, I'm 18 years old, I was told you can leave now. That was from SIFS. And he said, leave where? Go where? And he said, go home. Well, I don't know where home is. I haven't seen my family for years. And there were others that said, I was at the dentist, and then I was told, no, you can't have it. You can't have free dental care anymore because you're no
18.
longer under SIFS.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You see, that's appalling treatment. And then you've got people who go in and their foster parents are all loving and caring at the beginning, and then they're treated like slaves in the family. There's a whole lot of damage that goes on or abused, and there's been a lot of sexual abuse in a lot of these care homes. And look at the fighting that they've had at these youth facilities. It just goes on, and the damage is compounding. It's always compounding. And then they say to us, you need to look after your own now. What are you doing about these children who are not going to school? What are you doing about these things? They create the problem. The state creates the problem, and it puts that problem on us. And so they need to take responsibility for that. No one's held responsible. And there's this continuation of this abuse that carries on through generations.
How do we change all that?
Well, my view is that we should be putting resources, let's take Oranga Tamariki for example, putting our resources into supporting families, supporting whānau to be and our parents to be the best parents they can be, to support them, to learn how to do the things that they may have missed out on because there was a lot of trauma in the house and whatnot, to support them, because a lot of them want to be loved. And those children who go into those houses, those oranga tamariki homes, that's a job. You've got a job to do, you do the job. But what anybody wants is to be loved and to be cared for. So my view is you have to have people around them that care for them. You can't have people around them who are just doing the work, doing the job, raking in the money. And I think that because I said before the Waitangi Tribunal, that really needs to be dismantled. It needs to be deconstructed and it devolved out. Our babies to go out to our own people.
Who would pick up that mahi?
Well,
Are the providers there at the moment to be able to do that mahi now?
Well, I think that there are a number who are gearing up to do it, and there are a number who are ready, and there are a number who have already started doing that, who are already in that space.
Okay.
The issue, of course, is resourcing.
Resourcing. You mentioned something earlier, and this is a point I'd actually forgotten about, where the responsibility from Crown. It's almost like the Crown is abdicating its responsibility for something that Tahu Pōtiki once talked about, which is the Article 3 line, where the Crown says, okay, well, all right, te tiriti and, kāwanatanga and all that kind of stuff. Kāwanatanga also behoves upon the Crown the responsibility of doing certain things up until the Article 3 line. It's the old Michael Joseph Savage, from the cradle to the grave. And if the Crown abdicates its responsibility or just doesn't do that role, should there be a role? And this is an interesting question for you, being Ngāti Pāhauwera, but of course working, with urban Māori. Should there be a responsibility for iwi to start stepping up more in that space where we know the Crown is not doing the responsibility it should do? Or should we continue with a process that drags us into places like the Waitangi Tribunal to talk about these things? And in the meantime, the situation gets worse. So I know you said providers there, but should iwi also be playing a much bigger role in this space, do you think, given the resource that iwi?
Well, a number of iwi already have providers. There's this assumption that these providers are all out there in the wilderness somewhere, doing their own thing. But actually, a number, even in the whānau water space, most of the providers there are iwi providers. And so, my view is we all got a part to play. Everybody's got a part to play. And what we have to do, all of us, is to believe in ourselves that we can do this. Kahununu, they said after that attempted uplift of that baby at Hastings Hospital, they said not one more child. And apparently not one more child has been uplifted and taken into care. Wow. And what they did was they put out a tono to their people registered, their register, put it all out to their beneficiaries and asked them, if you had whānau who were in this situation, would you be prepared to take them? And they all said yes, and they were surprised by the number who came forward. So unless people are given the opportunities to do that, but we have to strengthen them, and it can't be about the money alone. You see, and because, if a child is in Oranga Tamariki care, they have a big plan, a list of a whole lot of things that includes dental, doctors, medication, you name it. They've got all this list of shoes and, clothing, all of that. What if they gave that list of things to that parent to help those parents, grow and develop them and strengthen themselves with the support of these providers, rather than building more institutions all over the place. Because what do babies need? They need love, and the state cannot give them love. The state can't give them manakitanga. The state cannot give them what a child needs in terms of their nurturing, in terms of their whakapapa, in terms of all the things that we hold dear to any culture in this country.
E te whae tēnā koe. Tēnā koe. I enei kōrero, tēnā koe I a tāua kōrero. E mihi ana. I know I mentioned at the top about, Ngāti Pāhauwera, and we had a bit of a kōrero about the quote-unquote feistiness of Ngāti Pāhauwera. But it is that makes things happen. But for people like yourself, we probably wouldn't have things happening for us and for our children after us. Nō reire mihi ana. Congratulations on the honorary doctorate. Well deserved. And ko te tumanako ia kamanaki hia tunu hia koe, korua katoha. A korua tamariki mokopuna te whana. How many mokopuna have you got, by the way?
4.
Wow.
Pā. Tino.
Need more.
Yeah, I know. Tino pōturi ake waka. Oku tamariki. Pōturi ke.
Tō re renga manaki tanga ki te whānau. E mihi ana ki a koe.
Kia ora.
It was Lady Tureiti Moxon. Wow. Awesome to have her with us. Join us next week for more from Māpuna. E mihi ana ki a koutou, i whakarongo mai ki ta mātou hōtaka, ki ta tātou hōtaka i tēnei wā. Ki ana te kōrero, ko te toka i āki hā he toka whitianga rā, ko te toka i Māpuna. Ko tāu e ki te ai, ko te ripokau. Ti hei wa mauri ora. Kia tātou katoa.